Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. It helps if my microphone is unmuted. Today we are going to work with our Kingart brush pens, and of course it is Fun Stuff Friday, so let's play with some fun stuff. So I have the Kingart brush pens. These are the regular brush pens as well as the dual tip brush pens. So there's the brush pen and a little nib as well. Of course, I have received these as a gift when I ordered my colored pencils. I had a problem with them, and they sent me these wonderful brush pens as a gift, and I told them that I would review them. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's of course do the swatch and grab your coffee, sit back, relax. I have, of course, sped it up and added some music, so it shouldn't take too long. It is both of these that we are swatching at the same time. So the first ones that we'll be going through are these ones, which are the Pro Dual Tip brush pens. And the second one that's going through is the Kingart brush pens 48 count. Which are the studio set. Sorry about that. All right, so I hope you have your coffee ready and everything is all set for the swatch. Okay, guys, I will be right back. Okay, so that wasn't so bad. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. So I'm going to grab the swatch here. So as you can see on the swatch here, the first one has names and numbers. And this is the dual tip brush pens. And I'm going to open the box, maybe. the, the box fits really tight. So let's take a look at the pens here. So as you can see, we'll switch it over here and turn the light on. It does have a number as well as a name. We have the stopper here, so what this does is it keeps it from rolling off your desk. And we have the brush tip, which is a nice brush tip, as well as this little tiny bit on the end here, which is your bullet nib. Now, the caps do stick onto each other, so you're not going to lose them. You just put them on the back of the pen. Same with this one, it'll fit on this side of the pen, like that. So you can definitely put them all together so that you don't lose them. Another thing that you can do, if you so desire, is you can stack them. Put them all together. Isn't that cool? So it comes with several different trays of colors. So there's 48 colors. And we've got our yellows. I'm going to switch over here. Our yellows into our oranges, into our reds, then into our pinks, and into our purples and our blues, and then from our blues into our greens, and then last but not least, let's see if I can get this out, from our greens into our browns and our grays. Now on the back of the box, let's look at the box here for a second. On the back of the box, it does tell you all about the set. It tells you what colors are included in the set. Lets you know that they're acid-free, non-toxic, and odorless. The caps are color-coded, airtight, and anti-roll. The ink is a water-based and blends easily. Use 2 or more markers to create unique shades and that sort of thing. So we'll take a look at doing some of that stuff as well. So those are the dual brush tip pens, and we will leave them out of the box because we're going to play with them here in a bit. I'm going to switch you over to the close-up camera so that you can take a look at the swatch. So we have our lemon, our bright yellow, peach, tan, orange, orange yellow, burnt sienna, red orange, red, red brick, port red, and our saddle brown. And then into our pinks, we have pink and bright pink and light pink, and then plum, pale plum, violet, light purple, purple, dark purple, and then into our blues. And we have imperial blue, midnight blue, royal blue, deep blue, blue, peacock blue, and then into our turquoisey colors. So we have turquoise and then light blue, pale blue, and then into our greens we have bright green, light green, Kelly green, hunter green, verdant green, holly green, dark green, and then green blue, and sea green, avocado and olive green. Then we have green brown, brown, cool gray, dark gray, and black. And that's all of the colors in this set. It is a 48 color set. Now in the brush pens, I'm going to switch you back over. I know I'm switching you back and forth, back and forth. Turn off this light here so it doesn't blind you. And these ones are a 48 count of just straight brush pens. Now these are really nice. They're quite juicy. The only thing I don't like about them is the fact that there are no names or numbers on the pen. The only way that you know what color it is by the ends. It does have a color coded end as well as up at the brush. So while swatching these, I arranged them. I will at some point, as soon as I can find them. I tried to find them and I can't find them. I will put my number dots on them and number them. But we have 48 colors in here as well. So we've got our yellows into the oranges and reds, into our reds and pinks, into our purples, and let's see if I can get this out, into our blues and into our greens. And then from our greens we go into our browns and then our grays and our black. And I'll show you on the swatch as soon as I can get this one out. And we will work on coloring with these as well. So I'm going to actually work with both sets today at the same time. Now on the back of this box, it does tell you the numbers and the names for these colors. However, they are not on the pen, which kind of bothers me. So before you start using your set, like I've been pulling paint brushes out and looking at them and fiddling with them. So I've mixed up the set, like the structure that it came as. So before you do anything with your pens, make sure that you swatch them so that you can put your names and your numbers with them and then put them in their order. It works like a pen, acts like a brush. They move effortlessly, thin and thick lines. They won't streak, bleed, or smudge. The colors are vibrant, light, fast, and non-toxic. So one thing I did notice with these is that in order to remove any sort of streaking, because we know how water brushes do that, you just have to go back over top of it once. I'm going to switch you on over to the close-up camera so we can take a look at these colors as well. So we've got a fluorescent yellow here, and then we've got in a few yellows into the really light oranges, into the darker oranges, and a fluorescent orange, a fluorescent red into our reds, and then into some pinks. And we have a fluorescent pink here, and then into the darker pinks, and the pinky purples, into our mulberry type of purples and that sort of thing, into our darker purples, and then into our dark blues, and into our lighter blues, and then into our dark greens, and then of course into our lighter greens, and our light browns into our darker browns, and then into our grays and our black. So it's both sets have a really good range of colors, and I'm quite sure that I could probably, if I went brush by brush, match them up so that the colors will jive together. The only differences between these and these in color wise is the brush set, the actual brush pens, not the dual brush pens, but the brush pens have some fluorescence in it that the dual brush pens do not. So other than that, there's not a color difference. There's a few color differences, but those are the main major ones that are that you'll notice right away, is that there's some fluorescence in the brush pens that aren't in the dual brush pens. So that's our swatch. We're going to put this on the side here, and we're going to take a couple of little pictures, and we're going to work first of all with our dual brush pens, and we're going to color a picture. Let's see, let's do the mushroom. We'll see how we do with them. I'm not overly confident with the brush pens, so hopefully this doesn't look absolutely horrible. But we will see, won't we? So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to start with a couple of spots of yellow. On the mushroom, and up here, and down here. And then we're going to take our red, now that will probably work better if I touched into that after I got the red down. Maybe. So what we're going to do is definitely got to go around them, I think. And in order to blend them together, we're going to do this. So what you do is you touch the tip of your pen with the other pen, and just move it until your other color starts showing through. Now I want that to be, yeah, that's the way I want it. And I'm just blending those together so that they look cohesive. And once again, I'm just touching the tip. Now this tip here, as you can see, the red pen is starting to change color, and that's picking up all that yellow color. So then we'll start using that pen. Add that color. Now if you find that you've got too much of that color, you can of course rub it off a little bit and bring it down to the right color that you want. So now we're getting closer to the original red color. And let's just throw that anywhere. Now we're going to touch that onto the end of this one just a little tiny bit. And blend that in. And then we're going to go back to this one and blend it in. going to do it again. Just a little tiny bit of that red on the tip of the yellow, so that when we get up to that yellow, the red will be hopefully, less. Just a little bit of it, just to get the yellow moving. Alright, and then just a little bit on the tip of that one, which will give you the ability to go from the yellow to the red. Once again, a little bit of the red on the tip of the yellow. And we're going to go through here. With that yellow. Just a little tiny bit more. Of that red. And as you can see, it blended all of it together really nicely. It didn't leave streaks, which is really good. Just covering up a couple of little areas here. Excuse me. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing with this mushroom down here. And we're just going to take a little bit of red onto the yellow because we're coming up to a yellow spot. So we can blend those together. Just going to do a little bit more. Now this is a really, really small mushroom, so now it's going the other way, so we just go from the other marker. And then just a touch from the red to the yellow. So that we can blend those together. And there we have our mushrooms. Now, it's always good to have a scrub page or a scribble page just to make sure that you get all the excess color off of your marker so that you have the original color still showing. Alright, so I'm going to put these ones back, and then I'm going to take a little bit of, where is it? What color is it? A little bit of tan, and this one, which is saddle brown, I do believe. Yes. So we're going to take the saddle brown and the tan, and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to take the saddle brown and just add it a little bit of tan to it. And we're going to color this area. Now we're going the opposite way. So as you can see, the tip of that nib is changed color, which tells you that that is absorbed your lighter color. So you want your lighter color to go into your darker color. So when your lighter color is still showing, put it down at the bottom and then move into your darker color area. And then you can take your lighter color and just touch it up. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're just going to take our darker color and touch it onto the nib. And as you can see, the nib of the lighter color has changed color, and the nib of the darker color has changed color. So let's do this one first. Now, because this is such a small area, it's not really making a whole lot of difference. So let's take this one. And do our shadow area. Okay. Alright, so there's our shadows and our base colors. And then we're going to do the same thing. Just get the brown off of there. Put those colors back to their original coloring. Put the lid on properly. Because, that would be smart. So now we're going to take some pinks and deep purpley color. So I'm going to take pink and light purple. If I can find it here. That's plum. I think this is light purple. Yep. And we're going to do the flower. And so I've got the pink and the light purple. And it went this way first, I think. Yeah. And it went a little bit more than I wanted it to. Why is that not as light as I wanted it to be? That's fine. I'm just going to fill in all the little white spot. And this one will be our dark one. We'll do a lighter one down below. So we're going to take that and we're going to take, yeah, the pink was way too, so we want light pink. And we're going to take a bit of the pink, put it on our light pink. So as you can see, it's changed color there. And then we're just going to go from the tip area here down into the base. Now these are really, really small flowers, so It's not going to be a huge difference, but if you're doing a larger flower in a larger area, doing things that way will give you a much nicer gradient than doing one color and stopping and going with the next color. Alright, so I want this one for the curtains. Alright, so there's our curtains. And then we're going to take, let's see, I want really light blue, so I need this set, I need this color. And I'm just going to take the nib and just a little bit of that light blue, showing that that's a window. Okay, and then same with down here. I'm just going to take a little bit and just put it in there. And then we're going to do our leaves. Let's put that the right way around. And our grasses. So we need this bright green. And I think hunter green would be the best one. And just going to do this. Just going to put a little tiny bit on the bright green. And there we go. So I'm trying to see which one gets the color change going on. I think it's this one. Yeah. And as you can see, as you go along, that color changes. Now if you feel that you need a little bit more dark, of course you can go back in and add a little bit of dark areas. And I think I won't, no, that was, yeah, I'm going to use light green on the grass here. And I'm just moving the pen in one direction so that I don't get any agitation on the paper, because with a water-based marker, if you agitate the paper, it's going to peel up on you, which really sucks. And now we need gray. So I'm going to grab the gray. And there we have it. So that is our brush pens, our dual brush pens, and the way they work. Now, the ability to change your colors and gradient your colors, so as you can probably see here, it goes from dark to light. Now, I did that with two pens just by touching them together, which created that effect. Now, we're going to work on this one, and we're going to use our brush pens, not the dual brush pens. So let's start with I need these ones. So let's start with a nice yellow, and these you can do the same thing with. So if you want a yellow into an orange, you can do the same thing. You can touch the pens together and get that color transference. Now, because these are actual brushes, not that have hairs, sometimes you won't get as much of a gradient as you will with the fiber brush pens of the dual tip. But you can still get a pretty good gradient just by touching those together. Now these are definitely brush pens. They're not markers, so the brush is very flexible all the way down, so you can either do a nice thin line or a thick line. They do blend together quite nicely. So even if you're not doing a gradient, you can easily blend those two colors together without too much of a harsh line. Now as you can see, it's changing color because it's picking up a little bit of that other color. Oh, and I'm off screen. Sorry guys. Same with here. It's not a lot of gradient, but it definitely has the ability to gradient. It's not as easy to do it with these than it is with the other brush pens. The one thing that I did notice with these is that the lighter ink will move and blend into that darker ink and lighten it up. Now you can do light on top of dark or dark on top of light. If you do dark on top of light, it takes over the light, but then you can lighten that up a little bit more by going back over it with your light color. The only thing you have to be careful with, of course, is the fact that these are a water-based marker, so it is going to lift the paper if you agitate it too much. These brushes are really, really soft, so you're not getting a lot of agitation, but if you go over an area too much and saturate it, you may find that you have too much liquid there and it just starts lifting the paper and getting messy. Now we're going to add a bit of red. And this is definitely one way that you can do a picture quite quickly, because these do go down very quickly. And then we're going to add a bit of pale purple. Now, of course, when you're working with these in small areas, it can be a little bit more difficult to control the very tip of the pen. So you can end up with streaks and stuff like that. Just make sure that you put your lids back on very tightly so that you don't end up with a dry pen. Okay. And then we're going to make this guy so colorful. We're going to add some green. And we're going to add a bit of blue into that green. Greeny blue, maybe, if we can get the lid off. Now hopefully when it dries, it'll just show as a gradient green. Now one other thing that I did notice is this does bleed a bit. So if you get too much liquid on there, too much ink on there, it does seem to spread a little bit into the other colors. So you have to be careful of that as well. Alright, and then we're going to do this one. And we're going to do, there we go. And then we're just going to blend it in a bit. The same with this side. So these do blend together quite nicely, even if you don't do a gradient. So if you're just putting one color on top of the other, and you have a hard line like that one, and you just take your other pen and just blend it in. And it eliminates that hard line, which is really kind of cool. And then we're going to take, let's see, what colors haven't we used yet? We're going to take a pink. This is a very psychedelic, colorful butterfly. And then we're going to actually take a fluorescent yellow and do this part here. And then we're going to take this one. So that's from the black over how many? So this one. It should be this one. It should be this one. Can't guarantee it is, but it should be this one. Another thing you got to remember is it's going to look a little darker until it dries. These do dry pretty quickly, but it's not instantaneous. And these react more like a paintbrush than a marker brush. So if you're used to using a paintbrush, then these will be very simple for you to use. If you're used to using a marker, you may find them a little bit more difficult to use. So I want this one, I think. First of all. And of course, the more layers you put down, the darker the color is going to be. And like I said, you have to be a little bit careful so that you don't bleed it too far. Sorry about that. My phone just decided that it was going to grumble at me. Okay, and then just going to blend that in. So it is a little bit different than the markers on how you blend things, how you move the marker, of course. Because of the fact that this is a brush tip and it's an actual fiber brush, it does make it a little bit more flexible than the other brush. The other brush is still pretty flexible, however it's not as soft as this one, like I'll show you in a minute here. I'll show you the difference between them. I'll show you what I mean in a moment, as soon as I finish this up, because I can't leave it just undone. It's almost finished. So as you remember from down there, we were able to put those tips together and get a good gradients for our leaves and everything else. Now with these, you can do that, but it takes a little bit longer and it doesn't gradient as well as those. The reason being is these have a really soft tip, And in order to get the coloring on the tip, you have to move back a little bit more the on the pen. Like for example, if I want to gradient that, I have to actually go way back here, because as you can see, that pen spreads. So I have to go way back in order to get that ink from the back of the pen. Now the brush nib on the other markers on the dual tip has a little bit more control. Like this is definitely more like a paintbrush, where it's going to drag instead of move with you. Alright, and then we're going to put the caps on these, and we're going to take, these caps are a little bit tighter, and we're going to take this pink, pinky purple color here, and we're just going to fill in those little dots with some little bits. Alright, so the difference between the two in coloring is pretty nice. Both of them do very well with blending and that sort of thing. I find that the dual brush markers are much nicer to work on a gradient scale with. And what I mean by a gradient scale is adding one marker to another and progressively moving that grade down from light to dark or dark to light. I'm going to show you, so I need a darker marker. A darker marker. So I need, say, blue. Let's work with blues since I have two of them right here. So the difference between the two markers in the nibs, I'm going to put this, and this one did bleed through a little bit. So this marker bled through a little bit on the reds and yellows, and I did put quite a bit of ink down for that. So we're going to compare the two different nibs. So that one, as you can see, is more of a solid tipped nib, where this one is more of a hair nib, a fiber nib. Alright, so when you press this one down, it doesn't separate. When you press this one down, it separates. So as you could probably see, if maybe, the fibers, the hairs, move apart. So as you can see there, that those hairs are moving apart. But if you do that with this one, those hairs aren't moving apart. It's still one continuous piece. So that's the difference between the two tips, the two nibs. So you can start really thin with this one, and the more pressure you put on it, the thicker it gets. This one, you can do the same sort of thing, but it starts really thin, and you can stay really thin no matter where you move it. So if I keep my hand in one position and bring this down towards the center of my hand, it's going to make one line. However, if I do it with this one and in the same position, starting at the same point, and bring it down towards the center of my hand, it gets thicker as it moves down. So this one here spreads its fibers as you pull it. You can't push it without spreading those fibers. Going back and forth like this spreads those fibers. You have to be a little careful when you spread the fibers and make sure that you put it back into a fine point. So if I do this, I can end up spreading those fibers, as you can see. So when you do that, you just have to roll it and bring it back into that fine point so that it's all one piece again. Well, it's never going to be all one piece, but so that it's back to the thin point. Where if I did that with this one, there's no consequence. There's, a slight bend to the tip, but there's no separation of the fiber. And that's the difference between the two tips and the way that they color, is one will always maintain a thin line no matter what. However, if you want this one to maintain a thin line all the way down, you have to move your hand and your arm with it. And don't put any pressure on it. The more pressure you put on it, the thicker the line is going to get. So you have to be really consistent and really good at keeping your hand at a constant pressure in order to get that line. I'm not really good at straight lines, obviously, but it is something that you really have to practice with in order to maintain that thin line if you're going to draw with these or color straight things or that sort of thing. I myself will use them for coloring larger areas and stuff like that, where I'm not worried about doing a straight line beyond one or two strokes in a straight line. Thin small lines I can do. Big long thin lines I can't do. But as you can see, there is a difference with the way they color, and of course this one here does have that nib. So if you want a thin line that's continual, you just need to use the nib. So both of them are fantastic pens. Both of them work for coloring. They are built for certain things. This does work a lot better for, say, writing. You know, it gives you that flow, that fluidity when you're doing cursive or calligraphy, that sort of thing. I don't do calligraphy, but I know somebody that does, and I am quite sure that, maybe Chinese letters. That sort of thing. Both are absolutely wonderful pens. Both are highly pigmented. Neither one of them sploosh, so they're not going to leak and cause problems with your picture. Both of them colored beautifully. This one I think blended a little bit better than this one with the touch marker to marker method. This one blended a lot better with the put your marker down and then draw a different color through it to blend it together. Other than that, personally, I think they're wonderful. Another thing that I am going to try is the glycerin, but I'm not going to do that on this stream. I will do that probably during one of my tips and tricks Tuesdays after I've had a chance to play with it and master it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. These are the Kingart dual brush pens and the Kingart brush pens. They do both have their names and numbers on the back of the box. The brush pens themselves, the regular brush pens, do not have the name and number on the pen. So I haven't numbered them because I was playing with them and I got them out of order. So if you want to put them in order as it is on the back of the box, make sure that you write those down and do your swatching before you start playing with them. The dual brush pens have the name and number on them, so you can rearrange those and put them in whatever color family you feel that you want them in. The dual brush pens have a very marker-like nib in the brush, as well as a fine-tipped nib on the end. So they have the brush pen, which is a fairly good brush, and it doesn't separate or fray, and they have a really nice fine tip that is not a micro fine tip, like it's not a fine liner. It is a nice fine tip that will fill in spaces quite easily in the smaller spaces. Both are a water base, so make sure that you pay attention to where you're putting your marker so that you don't end up going over and over an area where it's going to peel up the paper. Other than that, they are a wonderful, wonderful pen. I am actually really impressed with the Kingart products. I wasn't horribly impressed with their colored pencils to start with, and I think I just had a really bad batch, a really bad set, because the new set that they sent me, although it is missing one pencil, I did get a duplicate in it, which I have talked to them about. And it's not a big deal because I do have the original one that I got, and it's one of the colors that was perfectly fine in that one, so I just swapped them out. But other than that, the colored pencils are fantastic. The gel crayons, I absolutely adore those. And now the dual brush pens and the brush pens both are really nice, well usable, vibrant. Don't know what else I can say about them. They are a really nice product, and they work very, very nicely. I'm not getting too many lines in the dried swatch on, when you use a water brush pen or a water marker. You get little lines in your coloring from where it's overlapped and that sort of thing, and I'm not getting a lot of those lines, which means that they blended really well together and filled that space without drying too quickly and putting those lines down. Of course, I didn't get any bleed through on the swatch except for the black, and I think that's because I went over it a couple of times just to get rid of any of those lines. And on the coloring itself, I didn't get any bleed through except for on the dual markers from where I went over the reds and yellows quite a few times to get that to blend. So feeling it, it does feel like a water brush marker. So when you feel under a water brush marker, when you color with it, the paper feels a little rough, and it's just the water being absorbed into the paper which has made it pill up a little bit. Not a big deal. But other than that, they're fantastic. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I hope you take a look at their products. Go to the Kingart website. These are also available on Amazon, and I will link them there for the Amazon link as well as the Kingart website. They are also available, I do believe, on Jerry's Artorama, or it could be Blick Studios. It might be Blick, dickblicks.com. Um, so they're widely available, and of course they are a well-known company. So I have no problems at all saying that they are a company that you should take a look at. As for light fastness and that sort of thing, I can't absolutely say whether they are or not. I haven't stuck them in the window and left them sitting there for a long period of time. As of this point, for water resistance and that sort of thing, they're a water-based pen, so I think at this point when using them, they're going to move with water. After they dry, let's take a look. Let's see if I think this has got too much black on it from when I was using it. So let's see if I can rub some of that off. Of course not. Hold on 1 second. I have a solution. I've always got solutions. Alright, so I'm just wiping as much of the black off of this brush pen as I can. I used it for a background. So let's see if it moves. So it does move when you add moisture. However, these ones don't move as much. So let's see. We were doing green blue, so let's try green blue. Where is it? I think it's probably this one. So the greens do move a little bit when you add water. Let's try red. And so does the reds, but it takes a lot to move them. The reds on this one does take a little bit less. Now these are water-based markers, so they are going to move with water. I don't think they are something that you would expect to be water resistant because, like I said, they move with water. They're going to move with water. They are watercolors. They are watercolor pens, so they're going to move with water. And I don't think anywhere on the box they say that they're waterproof. Just taking a look here to make sure. Says they will not bleed, streak, or smudge. So that's the brush pens. Say they won't smudge, which they don't. If once they're dry, I can do this and they're not going to move. And same with these, I think. And this doesn't say either which way. Yeah, this doesn't say either which way, whether they're, see, but they don't smudge either once they're dry. So to me, I think they're a winner. And you know, basically you're going to get movement. So, and they're a water-based product, so you should expect movement out of a water-based product. So, yeah, fantastic little brush pens. I have enjoyed them and I will continue to enjoy them. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I will leave the links to the Kingart brush pens, 48 brush pens, as well as the dual brush pens in the About section below. And of course, if you want to join me over on Facebook, feel free to do so. Um, the Facebook group does require a application, so make sure you fill out that application in full so that we can accept you in as quickly as possible. Other than that, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I do put out at least one video every day, except for Sundays. Um, of course, if you like the video, hit the like button. It tells me what kind of content you want to see, and it also tells YouTube that people are enjoying my videos. So make sure you hit that like button. Other than that, guys, remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. Until tomorrow, bye bye for now.